On August the 11th, 1996, a summer crowd filled Old Indiana Fun Park in Thorntown, Indiana. It was a small, rural amusement park with a handful of rides and attractions aimed at families with young children. One of their rides was a slow-moving train that circled the woods at the back of the park, a ride that appeared to be among the safest in the park. That afternoon, dozens of people boarded for what should have been an uneventful trip. The whistle sounded and the train rolled out of the station, and within minutes, it vanished into a curve on the far side of the grounds, but it never returned. Somewhere along the route, the train began to shake and then left the track entirely. By the time the first emergency responders arrived, the ride area had been shut down and park staff were trying to help the injured. Among the victims was a 57-year-old woman who did not survive the crash. Another passenger, her granddaughter Emily, was left severely injured and left fighting for her life. But how exactly did this chaos unfold? Well, let's talk about it. This is the infamous miniature train ride disaster, the death of Nancy Hunt. Old Indiana Fun Park began its life in August 1983 under the name Middle Country Renaissance Festival. Initially, it operated as a seasonal event, running 6 weekends through early October of that year. The following year, in 1984, construction began on a permanent ride park, which officially opened on June 9, 1985, under the new name Middle Country USA. Unlike major amusement parks with towering coasters and large crowds, Old Indiana was modest by comparison. It covered around 30 acres of mostly flat farmland, converted into a patchwork of attractions including a wooden roller coaster, go-karts, bumper boats, and midway games. The park's focus was straightforward: affordable, family-friendly entertainment without the expense and grandeur of larger parks. One of the most popular rides there was the small gauge train, a narrow track locomotive pulling open-air passenger cars in a slow loop around the grounds at the back of the park. It offered a calm, scenic tour of the woods. Many visitors saw it as a gentle break from the other rides and a way for younger children and elderly guests to experience the park at their own pace. The train was also considered among the park's safest attractions. Its slow speeds and enclosed circuit gave families confidence to ride without worry. Maintenance records showed regular inspections, though the ride had not undergone any major upgrades since the park's early years. Though the park struggled financially and operationally, it remained open throughout the early 1990s, eventually rebranding as Old Indiana Fun Park. Although seen as quite a favourable destination by the local public, beneath the surface, some aspects of the park were showing their age and everything was about to change. It was a warm summer day on Sunday, August the 11th, 1996, and Old Indiana Fun Park was bustling with visitors. Among them was 57-year-old Nancy Jones, who brought her daughter Amy, her son-in-law Mike, and their 3 daughters, Sarah, Nikki, and 4-year-old Emily Hunt, to the park. They were joined by several cousins, making it a lively family outing. At some point in the day, the family decided to ride the park's miniature train. It wasn't made clear how many of them got onto the train, but we do know that grandmother Nancy and at least 4 of her grandchildren boarded the train, including 4-year-old Emily Hunt. The train had 2 passenger cars which could carry 24 people, and it was confirmed that it was not full before setting off. The train set off, and a few minutes in, as the train approached the sharp curve, witnesses say it suddenly lurched violently and then tipped over, sending the cars careening off the tracks. The cars toppled onto their sides, violently throwing the riders into nearby railings, the ground, and in some cases completely out of the cars. Screams filled the air as children and adults alike were thrown into chaos. Dust and debris rose from the impact as the train came to a sudden halt. Park staff and other visitors rushed to help the injured as emergency services were called immediately. Ambulances and fire crews arrived quickly on the scene, working under tense and urgent conditions to tend to the victims. Both Nancy Jones and Emily were crushed under one of the toppled over trains. Nancy Jones suffered fatal injuries in the crash and sadly died at the scene. Her granddaughter Emily was critically hurt and left fighting for her life. Other family members and passengers sustained broken bones, cuts, and bruises in the violent derailment. The once peaceful day turned into a scene of shock and trauma as first responders worked tirelessly amid the confusion. The park, known for its family-friendly atmosphere, was plunged into a crisis. Visitors watched in disbelief as emergency crews carried the injured away and secured the accident site. The area of the park was swiftly evacuated, and an investigation into the accident was launched. Investigators from the State Emergency Management Agency as well as the state's fire marshal's office were put in charge of the investigation to figure out what went wrong. What they found painted a troubling picture of negligence and systemic safety failures. The miniature train had been travelling at an unsafe speed as it approached the curve, far exceeding the ride's intended maximum of 12 miles per hour. Witnesses confirmed that the train was moving unusually fast for a ride designed for families and children. One person who was just on the train moments before said, "I made a comment when I got off that it was a whole lot faster than it was last year, because the guy, when he'd get in the corners, he hit the gas real hard and the car would rock." He also went on to claim that the driver purposely did this, as you heard the motors kick in when approaching the corners. Investigators discovered that critical safety components were either missing or broken. Several of the train's brakes were either disconnected, malfunctioning, or absent altogether, severely impairing the operator's ability to control the speed. Anti-derailment devices, mechanisms designed to keep the train securely on the track, were completely absent. The track itself showed signs of poor maintenance. Broken parts and debris littered the rails, increasing the risk of a derailment. Despite these glaring issues, the ride had passed 2 state inspections in the 3 months leading up to the accident. However, the inspector responsible later admitted to lacking the qualifications to inspect amusement rides, raising serious questions about the regulatory oversight at the park. They also found that the train had derailed up to 70 times in the past 2 months leading up to the incident alone. The investigation concluded that a combination of excessive speed, defective safety equipment, and inadequate maintenance directly led to the derailment. The park's failure to uphold basic safety standards was cited as a major contributing factor. In the weeks that followed the derailment, the consequences were swift. Old Indiana Fun Park's reputation was gone, replaced with headlines about negligence and tragedy. The park admitted responsibility, but claimed its operators were unaware of the derailment risk posed by the train's deteriorating condition. It was the defense that rang hollow in the public's ears. Lawsuits were filed by multiple victims, including members of the Hunt family, though most settlements were kept private. With its reputation in ruins and legal pressures mounting, the park filed for bankruptcy before the next season. By early 1997, the rides were auctioned off and the gates closed for good. For the Hunt family, the legal battles were only part of a much larger fight. Emily's father, Michael Hunt, channeled his grief and anger into action. He pushed for stronger state oversight on amusement rides, successfully lobbying for Emily's Law, legislation that tightened inspection requirements and improved safety protocols across parks in Indiana. He also founded the Emily Hunt Foundation to support spinal cord research and assist families facing similar challenges. Emily's own journey was one of endurance. She spent 101 days in the hospital getting rehab after the accident paralysed her from the chest down with a complete spinal cord injury. Life became a constant balance of medical care, daily stretching, breathing treatments, and the use of an electric wheelchair with the ordinary routines of childhood. The cost of her care sometimes exceeded $200,000 a year, but through insurance, state aid, and tireless advocacy from her family, she was able to receive what she needed. Over time, she grew into a young woman with a passion of fashion design, determined not to let her injuries define her. The accident that claimed her grandmother's life and forever altered her own became the catalyst for change in amusement ride safety. Though Old Indiana Fun Park is long gone, Emily Hunt's name endures, on the legislation that bears it, on the foundation that helps others, and in the legacy of a family who turned unimaginable loss into a lasting impact. From all reports, she is doing much better today, and of course, I wish her my best. As always, this is not an AI channel, I do everything myself, and if you appreciate my work, subscribe, and if you want to go the extra step to support the channel, maybe consider becoming a member. Let me know what you thought about this case in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching.